Okay. And yeah, it should be set to public. Okay, good. Yeah, this audio is up. Mic is hot. it like 7. We'll give it till it hits like maybe 10 or so. Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we're live. Can you believe it? There's been a ton of problems trying to get here. In the past, we've always done some type of show where we were using Discord or whatnot, and Discord wasn't working so well. So we've moved over to Skype. And yeah, Skype is just not fantastic either, but that's all right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We have a bunch of people already listening, watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And today we're going to have Trevor Current. And Trevor Current is someone that for quite some time we've been really close friends. We did the Digital Photography Cafe show together for many years. And during this time, there was a lot of things that we did. We worked all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast. We did WPPI as well as PPE, which is Photo Plus Expo. And we worked together basically covering this industry for probably about 7 to 8 years. Anyways, I guess without further ado, here's Trevor. Say hello, Trevor. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Not bad. Not bad. So tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, well, I am Trevor Current, and as you said, we have been working together for many years on the Digital Photography Cafe show and other various projects. And, every once in a while I like to jump in, help you out. My background is as a graphic and web designer, so that's my primary business. My hobby and part of my profession, I guess, is photography and video. We do a lot of content creation. So, of course, part of content creation is often audio and video. So we're involved a lot in that for our own projects and client projects. So, yeah, I just want to jump in and chat a little bit and catch up.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I told you guys for, I think it was about 2 or 3 shows ago, 4 shows ago, that I'm going to start having folks on live. And that's what we're doing right here. I'm having Trevor on just as a sample so you can see what it would be like if you came on with me live. We could also do something recorded if you're not comfortable doing that. But there's so many of you. There's about 29,000, I think, subscribers now. And there's a lot of you that are, I guess you would say, on with me all the time, chatting in the right below every single video in the comment area, also on Discord, on our creative Discord server. And a lot of you are members also that have joined and that contribute to the channel on a monthly basis. And I just thank you for doing so. But this is the type of thing that I want to do, is bring you guys on with me so that we can have discussions like what I'm going to do here with Trevor. We're just going to be kind of shooting it and talking about some of the latest news that has come out in the last week or 2, 3 weeks, whatever, and then some other things. But we're going to leave the chat live window open. So any questions that you have, stick them in there. We'll highlight those questions, we'll talk about them, and we'll get them answered. So it's kind of like an Ask Me Anything, but also with some conversation based on some of the things that have been going on in the news as of late. So like you said, a lot of the stuff that you do and that I do has to do with content creation. Content creation is massive. We've been doing it forever. We did, for, like I said, 8 years, the Digital Photography Cafe. We did podcasting when no one even knew what the hell a podcast was. Now everyone wants to be podcasting, right? So anyways, now it's like a big thing. And like I said, we've been doing it forever. It's just a lot of fun to be able to do it and get involved in it. One of the things that I told you guys were, I ended up going, instead of with Canon, I kind of did a little bit of, let's say, a move to the dark side, and I ended up with a Sony ZV-1, all right? Normally, I shoot with the 80D all the time, but I moved to that Sony ZV-1, and I was telling Trevor about it, and he was saying, oh, that looks pretty interesting. Well, to do this video, I'm actually shooting it right now with the ZV-1 in comparison to using like a Logitech or using the 80D. So you guys have to let me know, how does it look? Does it look okay? Does it look, I don't really know. Now I have the Logitech still running just in case this thing bombs, all right? And I need to switch over to the Logitech, which will probably not look as good, but just in case, because I've never used this and I don't know how good the internal software is for Sony. because that's what we're using. We're using that internal software, the USB direct feed into the computer, in comparison to using like a Ninja, an Elgato or something, and bringing in a clean HDMI feed. I'm probably going to do that in the future, but we're testing this now because I know Trevor wanted to know about this also, to say, well, should I get one of these or should I not? And I'm like, well, let's give it a shot. And that's one of the things that we're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think ideally the Elgato capture card is definitely going to be the best way to go, because then you're kind of eliminating that USB software conversion thing. You know, it may be 6 to 1, a half dozen the other, but, you know, Elgato's got onboard hardware that will be able to help, you know, make that process smoother, I think. And I think at the end of the day, you will get a better, sharper image, especially if you wanted to stream in 4K. You'll be able to do that way. But yeah, I am very interested in the Sony ZV-1. I have been looking at the Alpha, you know, the A6100 for doing live streaming, and doing recorded content. You know, that with the 16 millimeter f1.4, I think it was, would be really perfect for my situation. But with the lens, I mean, you're talking about $1,100. And for the Sony ZV-1, you know, you can pick those up for, you know, $650 on sale, and, you know, up a little bit, you know, regular retail might be close to $800. But, you know, realistically, you could probably almost get 2 Sony ZV-1s for the price of one, you know, Alpha mirrorless, and be able to do a dual cam shoot. So I think that could be a really great way to go, and that's why I'm curious to see, you know, how the stream is going to work out using that ZV-1. And I'm just using a Logitech webcam right now myself, so it's not a, you know, a super great camera, but it is a 1080p camera. So you know, I think in general it doesn't look bad.
No, it looks pretty good. It looks not bad at all. And you know, as far as that ZV-1, I was reluctant, let's say, to go with a Sony in comparison to just getting another Canon. And like you pointed out, today we're all about value, right? And how much things cost, and what is the ROI? What is the return on investment? How much do we have to pay, and what are we getting out of it? And for so many years, it wasn't like that. We would always buy the next and the next and the next greatest body, and just constantly this iteration upon iteration where there was very little innovation. Things are changing a little bit. People are not doing that as often. And as you can see here, I ended up going with the Sony in comparison to the Canon because, like you said, it's probably about half the price. Now, normally this camera would run for like $800, like $799. And then during Black Friday, it was $698. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And then I found one from another camera company, another camera store that had one unit left for $594. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Can't beat that.
I mean, you can't beat it. You cannot beat it. So that's what we're rolling on right now. And when I look at my image, because of course it has that fully articulating back panel that's so important to me, when I look at the image, I can see that my left eye is covered with the square. And if I turn one way or another, it'll literally just flop from eye to eye, whichever eye is closer, continuously keeping that focus dead on. Now, that's something that was so important to me coming from dual pixel AF of the Canon. I'm like, I cannot go with anything that doesn't have that. I was looking at some of the Panasonics. We know that the Panasonics have just a problem when it comes to holding focus. I just shot a big thing. Matter of fact, I really can't say what it was. But anyways, I just shot a really big, let's say, thing, we'll call it, yesterday. And we used a Panasonic, one of the S1Hs. And for the love of God, the thing just doesn't want to hold focus. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was talking to the producer, and I'm like, you know, we really need to get rid of this and just bring in something that works, because it's hard to capture stuff and then later on have to worry about in post, what did you really get and what didn't you get? you know, and that was the whole thing. So anyways, before I go any further, I want to say Too Good 79, thank you so much. He had put a nice donation in here as a super chat. Thank you very much. Also, there was a question about the teas. Mark Barron, I believe it is, said that he bought some teas and he wanted to know where the teas were from. The teas are basically sourced from all different places, but all of my teas, all of the ingredients that go into the teas are all organic, certified organic. So there was times where I'm late on getting the product out because I can't get the organic specific ingredient, and then I won't send it at all. I'm like a tea snob, I guess. So like I've been infusing, if you will, teas for many, many years. And I do it not only for the pleasure of drinking the tea, you know, like this one right here would be some Focus as well as some Misty Morning with the bergamot that I love, but I also do it medicinally. So there's some of the teas I have that will help you sleep, some of the other ones, you know, so you can go take a look at it over there at darkmoonteas.com if you were interested in any of them. But anyways, that's where they come from. So like I said, ask anything. We're going to stick them up here. We're going to highlight them, and we'll answer them as we're talking. So what do you think about the ZV-1 now? Is it something that you might buy, or are you going to look into another Canon camera that you currently have?
No, I'm not going to be looking at Canon, and I'll tell you why. It's because of the lack of clean HDMI out feed. Canon will not allow you to turn off the focus markers and all your f-stop and all of that stuff. So it's basically like what you're looking at on the back of the screen. And I have been doing a little research about this, and I've heard other people's opinions on it, and it's simply because they don't want to cannibalize their C line of video cameras. They don't want people to pull a straight, clean HDMI feed out to be able to stream with it or to be able to record into a deck or anything like that. So for me, Canon's a no-go for live streaming. Now, what I'm starting to move into with my business, it's really weird how things evolve. So I primarily do website design, hosting, and support. We work in WordPress. I mean, that's the common format around and everything. And I've been getting more, asks from clients about technology-related things, such as podcasting, such as live streaming video, because these are huge now. Live streaming video is huge. Podcasting, while it's been around since 2005, and Joe and I have been doing it since 2011, for a lot of people, this is like brand new. It's the hot and up and coming thing. It's the next TikTok here. And people want to get into it. So I actually have a lot of my corporate clients coming to me asking me about podcasting. So I'm like, well, yeah, sure. I mean, we do offer it as a service, a done-for-you service, but we really haven't had huge requests for it in the past. So Now we're looking to expand our offerings, get into doing this a little bit more. And so we're looking to expand on our equipment, one of which is getting a camera, getting a new dedicated computer for, the recording and streaming, getting software to run on that, and then getting, and just adding our audio equipment into it.
Yeah. It's, whenever you're building some type of setup out, there's so many pieces of a puzzle that people don't understand, even the productions that go on, like the production that I'm doing here is very small, but it has all of the pieces that are necessary to do a live broadcast, let's say TV, without a switcher. And, of course, we use OBS and whatnot for doing what we do. But if you go into any of the control rooms, like I was yesterday, and you look at the equipment that's being used, it's the same type of equipment, maybe a little bit on a larger scale, a little bit more powerful. The connections are, usually better. You have gigabit connections, usually multi-gigabit connections to be able to get stuff together. But when you boil it all down, I think a lot of it has to do with when you're teaching someone to do some type of content creation, it always comes back to photography. It always comes back to lighting. It comes back to how set design is done. What are you doing with your audio? What are you not doing with your audio? Most people don't understand it, but for the most part, audio is everything. Audio is literally 80% of video. So the bottom line is if your video is pretty much crap, people will still watch your video if your audio is not crap. Okay, that is so important. So a lot of times they'll say, if you want to start in doing the content creation and you want to use something like an iPhone or even like a webcam, throw on a lapel mic. Do something that will get you better audio. And I did a video based on that a couple of videos ago. I think I tested out like 5 mics, and people got to hear the different mics that I was testing, from Tascam to the RE20 that I'm on right now, to all of these other mics, and to see what works out good. And it's amazing. One of the mics that was selected as being one of the best was literally I think it was an Audio Technique, what was it? I don't remember the name of it. But anyways, I can put it in here someplace, and maybe I'll put it in the notes below. It was literally a $35 lapel mic. Yep. And it literally held its own to $200 mics, $80 mics, and even my RE20 here, that's $500. Now, most people did say the RE20 sounds better, which I sure as hell hope so, because you have a $500 mic, you have like a $300 and some compressor that goes into an H4n for the, there's a lot that goes into it. You're probably like just under $1,000 to be able to make it happen. But so it's always about that, and getting to know the gear, knowing what you can put together. And that goes back to, like I said, photography, doing any kind of AV design. Doesn't matter, audio, visual, doesn't make a difference. You just kind of have to know it, and then you can make things work, So like you with the ZV-1, I think it would be more than enough for what you're thinking about doing. Now, we had a question from Fractal Builder. He said, what do you expect in terms of third-party glass or high-quality glass when it comes to Fuji, besides Sigma? It really depends on what Fuji allows out there. Fuji is one of those companies that does a really good job at just, you almost want to call it open source, but it's not. They're very open. I think it's a great company. It's probably one of the best camera companies, in quote, that I know of. Best when it comes to customer service-based stuff. I think they're absolutely awesome. They're the only, or let's say they were for many years, the only company that you would buy a camera from them, and in a year, or actually even less, in like 3 months, it will be upgraded to a better camera than when you bought it. And then a year later, once again, upgraded through firmware. There was a camera, and I remember, someone can say in the chat if they know, there was a camera back probably 2 years ago or so that it came out. It only had 1080p recording, and literally within 3 months, it was recording 4K. And the people that bought it are like, holy crap, that's awesome. That's awesome. But that's the kind of stuff that they do. I want to see, like Canon, for example, open up the RF line. I want to see the Z line open up also to third party, because I think it's very important, so that if you want to get a cheaper lens, big air quotes cheaper, because some of the lenses out there, my favorite lens ever is a Tamron 90D. That Tamron 90D is probably, Tamron 90 millimeter is probably the sharpest lens that I've ever used. It's a macro lens, but is phenomenal. And I have like all of the Canon glass, literally all of it. I just got tons, tens of thousands of glass. So tens of thousands of dollars worth of glass. So I don't really know what's going to end up happening over there with Fuji and their third party, but I would have to say that you're probably going to see a lot of other glass come out in 2021 that's going to be mountable to all of the Fuji X series. And probably you're going to start seeing a lot more lenses when it comes to the GFX line, medium format. The GFX line is blowing up. It is the biggest, it's just the biggest, I would say, medium format camera out there right now. Hands down, the largest amounts of sales are just killing it, absolutely crushing it, eating everyone's lunch. So Fuji's doing a fantastic thing like that. They didn't go to the full frame bloodbath that all the rest of them did. They said, we're going to just stick with APS-C with their X series, and we're going to go to GFX for medium format, and we're going to circumvent full frame altogether. I wish they didn't, but that's what they decided to do, and I can't blame them for it. So,
yeah.
So, anyways, going into with this the next topic that I know you want to talk about, besides the camera stuff, you were looking at a new machine, and everyone out there knows that I went from Mac to PC, and I was using Macs for literally decades. All the way, my first Mac was an Apple II Plus. Yeah, an Apple II Plus. So I was using them forever.
Yep.
And then finally, about 2 years ago, I ended up building a PC, and I just went away from Mac because Apple just wasn't doing it anymore for me. They really were not looking at the professional market and building gear for the professionals. And it was just pissing me off, and I said that was the end of it. And things have changed, right, bro? Things have changed. The M1, what is going on with that?
Yeah, this new Apple Silicon that they came out with, the M1 chip, is pretty interesting. It definitely is. It definitely is a step in the right direction, I think, for Apple to move back more into that professional space, and really enhance even their consumer line of products. I have also been a longtime Mac user. I've been using it for decades. And, like you, I went from, the FX computer into the G series computers and the Mac Pros, the Towers, and all that stuff. And I'm currently running a 15-inch MacBook Pro, which has been a great machine. But this particular machine is kind of, it's still a great machine, but it's really kind of getting long in the tooth. I'm getting to the point where I do need to upgrade. So for the primary workstation, I'm going to hold out a little bit. I'm going to hold out to see what they come out with next year, later in the year. Kind of rumors or what have you are saying, August, we should be seeing a new iMac with the M series chip in it, which would be fantastic. But for the short term, I'm very interested in the Mac Mini M1. This little machine is just nuts from performance.
Right.
Tests that people have done, reports that are coming in, reviews that are coming in, even benchmarking tests. And, a lot of people are saying, benchmarking the M1 chip to an Intel chip is really not fair because they kind of work differently, but You've got to have something. You've got to have some type of benchmarking to compare things to. And the ultimate real world benchmarking is actually running tasks on the computers. And a comparable Mac Mini with an Intel chip to the Mac Mini M1, the Mac Mini M1 is light years better. Not even like a little bit better. It is drastically better. It can handle the processing without even spinning up the fan. It's just amazing at what it's doing. They tests that I saw in running Lightroom, there is actually no difference at all. Even running in emulation, because right now Lightroom is not an M1 native app, so it's running through emulation. So running through emulation, it's still faster than a comparable Intel version. And the running Final Cut, which is now an M1 native app, it is drastically faster than Final Cut on the Intel machine. So it's very interesting to me, and this is a machine that I'm definitely looking at for the podcasting and the live streaming and the content creation efforts, because of its speed. Right. Because it's just a little box. The Mac Mini is the cheapest Apple product you can get into, because there's no keyboard, there's no monitor, no nothing.
Right.
So I have all of that stuff, so I'm really looking at that for, $800-900, getting a new machine in here and having that as a dedicated machine for the podcasting and the video and the live streaming.
Yeah. So the only issue that I have with the new Mac is this, and I don't know if you guys are on the same page with this or not. Apple was always like the Power PC, right? And I have the G3, and
Yep.
G2, G4, well, on and on. Anyways, the Power PC. And at that point, the problem with it is the systems were fast, okay, and they were very good for doing, let's say, Photoshop. They were good for doing editing, Adobe, using Final Cut and all this kind of stuff. Really honed in and optimized for that, and that's great and all. But the problem was they couldn't do anything else than that. It was very productivity oriented, and then there wasn't a lot of people buying it. So it was a very small portion of the market. And I've always said that Apple needed to get into like an Intel chip so that they would be able to now bring games into the market, right? Bring games for the people that are buying their computers, because games run the world. You of course you need to do productivity stuff, but games are very important to a lot of people. Hence, I said Intel would be the way to go. Well, they ended up going from PowerPC to Intel. And at that time, all of a sudden, Apple users were just opened up to all of this gaming that was available. Doesn't matter what you use or how you get those games, but there's now all of a sudden a ton of games that you can play on your Apple that you were never able to do in the past. Now, when you look at that, you're like, okay, that makes sense. And now all of a sudden you have a lot more people in that platform or on that platform. Now we're going to once again go from an Intel, which is very, let's say, generic, I guess. It's not generic, but it's well used, right? It's even probably even more so than AMD, whereas AMD is still a little bit better when it comes. Anyways, whatever. That's the whole AMD Intel war. We don't want to get into that. But the bottom line is Intel was really great for that. Now they're going with this new chipset, which is blazing fast, but it all needs to be recoded. So any game, any piece of software, any application, anything needs to be recoded for that chipset. That is a major problem. Well, if you're a productivity type person, it's not a problem at all, right, Trevor? This stuff is going to be blazing fast, but now everything else is going to be slow to, I guess, move into the new platform. I want to see Apple finally get like QuickBooks, so you can actually use QuickBooks on an Apple that doesn't look like from 1999. That would be fantastic. Well, I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, but this is the type of stuff. And now I'm going to say that I would guess gaming is probably going to die again for X number of years while they just kind of reprogram everything, reprocess it all. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the one last thing that I want to say is I am not a beta tester for anyone unless you're paying me to beta test it. That is one of the reasons why, even with cameras, I very rarely, every once in a while, but very rarely will I buy a Gen 1, even though they look like unbelievable. The same thing with an R5. People are like, why didn't you get the R5? It's a 5D. Yeah, it is. The same reason why I'm probably not going to get, I shouldn't say that, but I might get an R1, which will be a replacement to a 1D, but the R5 just didn't do it for me. And I'm glad I didn't buy it yet, because an R5 Mark II is going to be amazing, because they're going to work out the easy bake oven problems that are constantly melting the damn thing. And, you can only bandage that so much, because it kind of is what it is. What are you going to do with it? It is an internal issue. Yeah, through firmware updates, you can make it like push the limit more. There's little things little tweaks, but you need to fix the internals to really make that heat problem go away. So we'll see. Yeah. Gen 2 for me. I don't want to be a beta tester of the M1. I know, you were saying that you might, and I probably would agree with you when it comes to maybe a Gen 1, if you just, like you said, get a Mac Mini, something that's low cost. But a full-blown Mac for $2-3 grand, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
No, no. Well, and they're not even available yet. So right now, the only Macs available with the M1 is just the MacBook, a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and then the Mac Mini. So it's going to be a while before we start seeing the higher end machines getting these chips. But
Right.
I mean, Apple's no stranger to the chip production market. I mean, they've been making the iPhone and iPad chips themselves for the last decade. So this is a variant of that. Now it's in their own facilities where they have 100% control over it, which I think is really, really good from that standpoint. But they are creating a closed ecosystem again. You know, they are going to alienate the people that are using their Macs more, let's say, for pleasure, for gaming, for, entertainment things, for running apps,
Right.
that really needed that Intel chip. Now, they will run under emulation. They will perform fairly decently under emulation, but it is emulation. For top performance, they're going to need to make them native M1
Right.
compatible. And the people that are creating the productivity apps, like Adobe with all of their graphics programs I mean, all of the big players on the Mac are going to be converting and making native apps. But QuickBooks, I mean, as you commented, and I agree. I mean, the QuickBooks on the Mac was abysmal, but I mean that's QuickBooks doing. They could do a version
Yeah.
that looked good and performed well on a Mac. They just
Yeah.
choose not
I think just
because their
Apple
audience
somehow,
isn't big enough.
yeah, Apple, someone over there pissed them off or something many years ago, and they said that's it. It just kind of is what it is. So we got a couple of questions. We have, let me see, one here from Too Good 79 says, Joe, do you think the Canon come out with the RF line of the 70 to 135 f2 in 2021? Honestly, I'm not sure. Canon currently is going on this breakneck speed thing when it comes to lenses, and thank God that they are. So they are making a ton of RF glass. They really are trying to move people into their R lineup, okay? And while they will continue making EF lenses, I'm sure for years to come, the RF line, they know that they need to not only equal Sony, but surpass Sony. And that's what it looks like that they're doing. And they're doing it in a way that really kind of pushes the envelope and makes Sony take notice and say, we need to do the same thing. They're coming out with the 600 millimeter, the 800 millimeter, and a massive 1200 millimeter, supposedly this year, which is incredible. But also I heard that they were going to come out with an RF version of a tilt shift. Now, that is a very specialized lens. If you do any type of photography that deals with, let's say, buildings of any kind, and you want to get them oriented properly in camera and not play with them digitally in post-production to get them all straightened up, you need to have a tilt shift lens. Well, coming out with a tilt shift lens for the RF line, literally like 2 years after they come out, is just amazing. And this is the kind of stuff that Sony is going to have to take notice to and say, you know what, we need to do the same. Also, we have a question
Right.
that, let me see, DeWolfian, I believe, photography says, why didn't you consider a Canon G7 Mark II, which is very similar to this Sony ZV-1? I did look at it. It was a possibility. Just the price of this was just amazing on the ZV-1, and it's just ROI, the value. I just really,
Yeah.
I thought that it was the way to go. So we're going to see. I could be wrong. I don't know. So far, it's been doing a really great job, but who knows? I said that I was going to report back in a month after using it, and if it turns into a big ball of crap, I'm going to let you know. If it's absolutely unbelievable, I'm going to also let you know. Once again, no
Yeah.
fanboy zone here, right? I've never been a fanboy, even though
Yep.
I've shot Canon for the last 20 years. I really don't care what I shoot. I bring in Hasselblads. We did a shoot, matter of fact, together on Miami Beach, like God, it was on an
Yeah.
island right off of Miami. It was a few years back, and it was literally 36 degrees in Florida, and we had 3 models. We had a fashion designer and all this stuff, and you were shooting with me at the time. And let me
Yeah,
just tell
yeah.
you, we brought in, I think I brought in like a $50,000 setup. Hasselblad setup for doing that
Yep.
job, just to give you an idea. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's always the right camera for the right job. It doesn't matter. There's no one camera
That's right.
that does everything. You just got to kind of know it. Anyways, I don't know the name here. I can't pronounce it. Von Ruingen. Anyways, I am planning to switch from Nikon over to Sony. Right now, he's shooting a D810. He wants to go over to an A7R3. Obviously for focus and cheaper lens options, blah, blah, blah. You know, Nikon, I think probably the best DSLR ever made to date is a Nikon D850. I think the 850 is just hands down the best DSLR ever. Now you have the 810, okay, fine. The A7R3 is an amazing camera also. So, you know, if you want to go into the mirrorless side of things and you want to convert over to Sony, I think you'll be very happy with the Sony A7R3. That is a megapixel camera in comparison, you know, very photographic, let's say, photo-oriented in comparison to their S line, like the brand new A7S3, which is more on the video line. So you're looking at 12 megapixels in comparison to a ton. So
Right.
big difference. So I think that you would like it no matter what. But once again, don't think that you're just going to go down that route and all of a sudden your pictures are going to become better, because usually they're not. It really depends on what you're going to do with it. Are you looking for animal eye focus that the Canon, you know, doesn't have, or whatever it is? Just always when you're looking at a new body, look at the body. For me, the way I look at it is, you look at the body and say, is there something about that body that I absolutely need or want right this minute that the other one doesn't have, or is it going to make me more money? Is there something in there that's going to save me time, that will save me money in post-production or whatever? Or is there something, some capacity, some capability that camera has that another one doesn't have, that my client wants or needs? So that's the way I look at it when it comes to upgrading, especially now where things are a bit tighter than they were 10, 15 years ago. So,
Yeah, sure. Daryl Spencer had asked about computer monitors for photo editing. And he's asking, you know, what's a good monitor for a budget of $600 to $700? Having, you know, you need a good monitor for photo editing so you can get more accurate color representation when it comes time for print.
right.
Now, Daryl, if you can just put in the comments, when you talk about print, are you talking about sending images to a lab for printing, or are you talking about offset printing, like for graphic design work? Because there is a difference. They work in different color spaces, and you know, you kind of need to keep that in mind. But in general, I would say any monitor that, you know, like Joe, you have a Dell monitor over there. I'm running
Yeah.
an Apple Cinema display. I mean, you know, in that price range of $600 to $700, I mean, I would say in general, most monitors are going to be pretty darn good. It's really about calibrating your monitor to your computer and to your print process. So if you're doing graphics work, design work, where you're preparing files for offset printing, you know, you need to be able to calibrate your monitor to your printer specs. If you're printing to your, you know, like a really high-end Epson printer, and you're doing large format prints on roll stock, or even, you know, 8x10s or something like that, you want to be able to calibrate to that printer. So really, it's about calibrating your monitor for color and calibrating to your printer's to your print device. So, but in
Yeah.
your budget range, I would think most monitors are probably going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using right now a wide 34-inch Dell. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it, because it works out really good for me for video editing. Nice long timeline. I like it. I like it a lot. But exactly what you said, and that's that's why I love having you on, and hopefully a lot of you guys that will come on to the channel and give your knowledge. because I don't know everything. So when people ask, when I have someone on like Trevor, he's done a lot of work. He's worked with Sony, with Mars. He's done a lot of package work. He's done a lot of print work, and he understands this stuff. And the thing is like he's saying, it's all about calibration. If you need to get stuff dead on. Now, you guys know that I've invented products, the Focus Pyramid, the PRT, all of the Aurora Camera Care, sensor cleaning stuff, lens cleaning stuff, all the rest of the stuff. A lot of it has to do with packaging, and that packaging, I want to get the colors just right. So what I have to do is I calibrate my monitor so that it will be the same as what is going to be used later on whatever press that we're using. And I will get that profile, and I'll be able to see what it looks like beforehand and be able to dial stuff in exact. So it's not as important as it used to be to get the perfect monitor. It's more about getting the perfect calibration based on where you're going to print it. So if you're going to a print shop to print something, say, listen, do you have a profile that I can download so that I can proof, my stuff? And if they say yes, then you know you're at the right print shop. So yeah, I agree 110%. That is the facts, as they would say.
Yeah, for sure.
So you don't have to spend a ton of money. It's really about the size that you want. It has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, the size is key. I mean, you can definitely spend a lot of money the bigger you go. I do like your wide format screen. The cinema display that I'm using is old, but it's still a great display. This is an old plasma cinema display. It's like from 2006. It's a 23-inch, but it still looks fantastic. So I can't justify getting a new one, and it's big enough. It's big enough. I wouldn't mind a bigger one, but I mean, it does the job for me.
Yeah. So we got another question come in here from Eduardo Lopez. He says, I own both the Nikon D750 and the Z6. Which lens would you recommend for video? I own a native 85mm Z lens and the Tokyo, the 90mm or whatnot. Now, when it comes to video, it's completely different than photo, right? So for video, it really depends on what you're trying to capture. All right, you're not playing with it in post-production. What you see is what you get. So, for example, right now, when you see me, I'm right now shooting at f1.8, but it's a small sensor, so you can still see a little bit of my background. It's not completely blurry, but it's got a slight blur on it. It's exactly how I want it. I want you to be able to see stuff on the monitor back there so that if I put something on there, you'll be able to read it. If not, there's no reason to have it over there. Now, if this was let's say a 1.8 on a full frame, that's going to be extremely blurry back there, and you're not going to be able to read it. So for me, I wouldn't want that. I would have to stop down to maybe like let's say 2.8 or maybe 3.2, 3.5, 4.0, something like that, so we can see it back there. At that point, we got to boost up our ISO, because we're not going to play with our shutter speed, because we need to keep the shutter speed where it needs to be for whatever we're recording, usually double what you're recording at. If you're doing 30, you want to record at 60, 1/60th of a second. Same thing, if you're doing 60, you want to do 125th. So anyways, the bottom line is, what are you looking for? If you're doing video and you're doing some type of selfie stuff or vlogging and you're like this, well, you need something super wide, and neither one of those lenses is going to work for you. So it really has to do with what you're trying to accomplish, okay, to pick the right lens. There's no perfect lens, like I said. And if you're doing video, it's like, well, what video are you doing? Are you doing something really close? Are you doing something far away? Are you trying to capture birds? Are you trying to capture yourself really up close? What are you trying to do? Does the background matter to you? Do you want it completely dropped off? How do you want it to look? So put that into the comment area, and then maybe we can give you a little bit better of an idea, but hopefully that helps a little bit. And we also have one more question here. Fractal Builder says, macro lenses, at least some, it says, are known as very sharp and whatnot, micro. Okay, and this is replying back to Mr. Lopez over there. And yes, so most likely, if you're using a macro lens like me, I had that 90mm Tamron. Those macro lenses are usually tack sharp, really, really good. So for me, if I'm going to do any type of product work, and let's say it's going to be video product work, I want to get tight in there, let's say a watch or something, I'm going to use a macro lens, right? So once again, like I said, it depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, sure. Real Nikon lover asked, he said, a digital calibration product provider announced that they can, quote, fix the autofocus of any camera, any model. With all the virus concerns, how safe are our cameras from viruses? Focus pyramid works. So, I mean, honestly, I mean, the short answer to that, I would say, is if they're talking about needing to install like a firmware on your camera, like a firmware update or some type of software hack, to that I would say don't do it. Because if you hack the software on your camera, it will void your manufacturer's warranty, most likely. If it's some other type of software thing, I don't know how it would work. I mean, the only way it's going to fix autofocus within the camera is by doing something inside the camera. But in general, any device that runs software is susceptible to a virus. So it could be your watch, it could be anything. So if it runs software, it's susceptible to a virus. So, you know, downloading and installing something on any device, you need to be cautious of where it's coming from and do they warranty it? And if there's a problem with the camera, are they going to back it up? You know, are they going to cover it? You know, most likely they'll say, oh, we'll just restore it to your original firmware and you'll be okay. To me, I wouldn't mess with it. It doesn't sound like a good idea.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree 110%. Today, our cameras are basically, they're like small computers, right? They're online. You plug them in. Like, for example, this Sony, the ZV-1 right now is plugged in and it is communicating with my computer. So if I installed a virus onto this machine, right? Let's just call it a machine because it is basically a mini computer with a lens stuck to it. It could definitely affect the computer, and then all of a sudden you end up, you know, having to deal with viruses and any type of malware and anything else. I don't like that. You know, we can fix all type of mental. You know, I heard that you said that the focus pyramid works. The focus pyramid I designed about 10 or 11 years ago. It's very simple. I started using like a ruler on a wall and getting like my focus down just right. And I'm like, you know, that was working okay. And then I'm like, well, I didn't have consistency. So it wasn't working. Right. I was constantly hunting, trying to get the autofocus right. And so I said, you know what, let me go and buy one of these expensive things to go and do it. And I did that and it worked out pretty well. And then I'm like, well, God, why does someone have to spend so much money to get this to work? That's when I developed the focus pyramid, this autofocus lens calibration tool. And there's literally sold just tens of thousands of these things worldwide. They're being used in schools all over the place. And it works out really good because it's at the appropriate angle, number one. Number two, once you put it down wherever you put it, the angle remains the same in perpetuity. I mean, that's it. It's the same. Throw it around, whatever you do. It's made out of paper. It folds up, and it's like an origami type of thing. And you do an origami, and you put it together, and there it is. It's done. And it's exact every single time. But it just simply works. When you start dealing with stuff that you have to download this and download that, it makes me fearful because, like Trevor, like you were saying, you just don't know what people are installing. The other thing is even if they were installing something great for your, let's say, for your camera, there could be other stuff that's injected in that is going to go onto your system. How many times have you guys installed something as small as, let's say, a new printer driver or something, and then all of a sudden you look and in your taskbar you have something new, and when you click on it, it's like something does nothing to do with anything. It might be like a search bar or a search function or something. This is all of these type of piggybackware, as I call it, that goes into and gets stuffed into all of these programs. And then all of a sudden you end up with a virus, or you end up with some kind of malware or something that's constantly, you know, keeping track of what you're doing and radioing back to home whatever it wants to. So it's kind of scary. I am not into all that. So I don't really install that kind of stuff.
No, I agree. It's not worth it. I mean, when you rely on your technology, you want it to run as clean and as efficiently as possible. You know, and I have to admit that I am not the type of person that will update my operating system and all my apps and stuff as soon as a new update comes out. I won't do it because I need this thing to work. My livelihood depends on it, and I can't take a day rebuilding a machine because there's a software failure or crash the whole thing or whatever. So I wait until releases have been out there for a little while. I make sure that they're vetted. I make sure that if there's any community feedback, that's been taken into account, and that the things are fixed and working properly.
Yeah, we got a question here from John Drunham, I believe, and he said, I have a 28-inch Dell 2K monitor. I bought 2K because I found I couldn't visually distinguish 2K from 4K, and you know, so as an amateur, I couldn't justify the extra cash, right? The extra money, and that is absolutely the case. A lot of people get into buying the best just because they think it's the best for whatever they're doing, and a lot of times it just simply isn't. Perfect example here with John. 2K is enough for what he's doing, all right? And he's doing some amazing stuff over there that I've went over there and saw some of his work. You should go and check him out. And John, if you want, stick a URL into the comment area so people can go see some of your stuff. So yeah, it really depends on what you're doing, and you don't always have to have the best of the best. And sometimes you just can't even, you know, see the difference. Perfect example is 8K. You know, I was reading through some paperwork on this stuff, and literally 8K, even if you had an 8K monitor and you were over X number of feet, I forgot if it was 4 or 5 feet away, whatever the number is, anything past that, you can't distinguish anymore. You can't tell. So, you know, and if I'm sitting on my couch, it's like 15, 20 feet away, it doesn't really matter anymore. Okay, 4K is enough. I can't see the difference at that point. So yeah, a lot of times, like I said, people always want the best of the best, the best of the best, and they're paying all this money, and they really don't need to. Kind of get what you need, and don't overbuy some of this stuff. I've done it for so many years, and then I think as time goes on, same thing with you, Trevor, you buy things, and then later on you're like, yeah, I bought that, but this one works as good. Perfect example was that microphone, that $35 Audio Technica microphone. That thing is damn awesome, and it's $35. Like, who would have thunk such a thing? You know, just
I've used that mic a lot. Yeah, I've used that a lot. I've plugged it in my iPhone when I've been out and about doing like some vlogging type stuff, and it works great. The sound is great, and you know, and it's clean. It's clean sound. So you can always go in post and just kind of tweak it a little bit, boost the volume levels and things like that. But it's clean sound, and that's the main thing, is you want something that's clean.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see. You have another question in there?
Yeah, I'm looking here. You know, just to kind of piggyback real quick, I was thinking about this while you were talking about the monitors and the resolution. So in our family room, we have an old Panasonic, God, it's probably 14 years old now. It's a plasma 50-inch TV that is 720p. All right, that was cutting edge at the time. And sitting on my couch from 9-10 feet away, that thing looks pristine to this day. It looks beautiful. I watch your videos, Joe, on that big screen, and it looks fantastic. It's nice and smooth and everything. But you get up close to it. You get 2 feet away from it, 12 inches away from it. You can absolutely see the pixel. So having a higher res monitor, if you're sitting on top of it, I think is good. But how much is too much, right? I mean, as we all get older, our eyes have a tendency to degrade a little bit. So that extra resolution is not going to make much of a difference if you need to pump up yours or lower your screen resolution so you can actually get your text and stuff big enough to see, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's true. I mean, a perfect example is here. So I'm broadcasting, right? We have Trevor coming in through Skype. I'm coming through this ZV1, right? And I'm sending it out through an absolute trash internet feed because that's just what we have available in this location. That being said, it doesn't really matter if I was bringing in 4K and Trevor had 4K. The time you get it is still going to be trash. It doesn't make a difference.
Yes.
It always, you know, it's you have to bring in some really good stuff, but you got to understand where it's going to be used. That's one of the reasons why when I see people use their iPhone for doing portraiture, right, taking a picture of themselves, a headshot. When I see that, it's like, well, obviously, you don't care about the quality of the image when it's going to be printed, okay? But on the other hand, if that portrait is only going to reside on the internet, then an iPhone is probably good enough. It's back to the whole good enough stuff that I'm always talking about. Yep. So in that case, your iPhone is it. There's no reason to go and hire someone to go do a fantastic portrait of yourself. But on the other hand, I see businesses all the time that are literally using iPhones and just trash phones, horrible lighting and whatnot. And those are the photos that they're using in like their quarterlies or in their year-end analysis of, you know, for let's say their whatever their shareholders are getting, you know, those booklets, those pamphlets. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah, the annual reports. Yeah.
It looks like crap. And this is what you're going to give to them. It's just, why? Why would you do it? So, you know, you just kind of use the stuff that you really need to for the job. And a lot of people don't do that. They just look at it. And that's the problem right now. We are living in that whole good enough era where everything is just good enough. And it's like, this is good enough. That's good enough. And everything gets thrown away. And there's like quality is gone. It's like, I don't even know what the hell has happened. But this is what we're living now. And it's getting worse instead of better. So knowing that, we kind of have to, you know, like make do with what we have and not always kind of buy all the time the latest and greatest, because sometimes it just simply doesn't matter.
Agreed. I mean, I think, you know, as a photographer, let's say a hobbyist photographer, right? Somebody who's not a working professional out there shooting weddings and events and commercial photography for ad agencies and things like that. My personal feeling is work with the equipment you have until your art surpasses the ability of your equipment. You know, once you've, let's say, mastered that particular camera, you know, that particular camera lens combination, you know, then look at purchasing additional equipment, then look at upgrading and doing other things. Because otherwise you're just spending a lot of money that many times will sit in the bag and not be used. And, you know, and that's when the good enough comes into play, that you'll find a lot of hobby photographers will simply use their phones when they're out and about because that's what they have with them.
Right.
You know, the DSLR or the nice mirrorless that they just dropped a couple grand on is back at the house sitting in a bag. So, absolutely. You know, and if you are of the mindset that you really want to work on your art, you know, work on your eye, work on your composition, work on natural lighting, you know, work on the artistic side of it. And then when you've mastered that, expand your technical side, your equipment side to further your art.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One of the things I talked about in a couple of videos ago is I was telling you guys about the whole Google. I was actually talking about at the time the Adobe thing with like $3.4 billion they made. Just some crazy in one single quarter. But anyways, I also talked about Google and how Google crashed. Google went down for like 2-3 hours, and my kids couldn't go to school, of course, because they're virtual, or some of the people can't go because they're virtual, and everything is going on like this. And I wanted to report back to you guys that even to now, we're now a week later, I still do not have, I think it's almost 1,300 people of you guys, that have subscribed to my mailing list to be able to communicate with you on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
You guys are gone. And the company still says that it's due to the due to that outage that Google had, and they're still missing. So these are the kind of things I kind of wanted to give you an update. I promised that I would. Still, even today, a week later, still missing 1,300 past clients that have bought products or have registered, and they're just simply gone. It's just sad. And these are the times that we live in. All too often, people today are using these cloud services as a means of not only backing up everything, but just as a primary means to have all of their stuff. So it doesn't matter if it's their photos, their videos, it doesn't matter if it's their passwords, everything. Everything is in the cloud. Google is one of these companies, for example, that many corporations are using daily, and they rely on them for doing meetings, for doing, perfect example is production, like I was just doing yesterday. A lot of the stuff that goes inner office, a lot of the producers, they're communicating together with the people that are editing and whatnot. All of the information is through Google Meetings, through Google everything. They're sharing stuff back and forth through Google. And if they go down, basically the business goes down. It's really kind of scary if you think about it, because if for some reason, could you imagine if right now, just this second, Google just shut down because of some type of catastrophic event? How many companies do you think would go belly up, or at least would not be able to function for weeks or months on end? Maybe not at all. I mean, immediately, just like that, gone. And the reason being is no one today has like backups anymore, because they think like it's all up in the cloud, so it's safe. And that's the exact opposite of the truth. And here's a perfect example where I literally lost 1,300 clients, right? Having that means of communication with them. And the problem is it's almost impossible to figure out who those clients were out of the people that are missing. You can't just go and dump people into a list that haven't been asked to be there. So it is it's a hard thing. So it's kind of scary. It's definitely scary.
It is scary, and that is the nature of cloud computing today. We all put our trust in the Googles and the Amazons, and that they're protecting our data. And in general, they do a pretty good job. But when there is a problem, it could be a catastrophic problem. So, I mean, I know that I've been on your show before, and I know that we've had conversations about backups and things like that. And, that is really, really important to keep in mind with your photography, with your client images, with your websites, any digital assets that you have. It needs to live in more than one spot. So if you're hosting your website and it happens to be running on Google Cloud Platform, that's great. Make sure that you have a backup going to Amazon, let's say, Amazon S3. Just to keep them in separate data centers. The same with your photography. If you've got them living on your local computer, that's awesome, but you do need to have them elsewhere in the cloud. Put them on Google Drive, if nothing else. Look into a service called Wasabi. I am actually going to be connecting and hooking up Wasabi for some other projects, probably over the break, because this is something that I need to set up, for another effort. But I want to be able to have these extra backups. So it's hard. In your case, Joe, I mean, it sucks. The email provider, I mean, they kind of dropped the ball. They should have had other enterprise backups running to be able to restore, but instead they relied completely on Google, and now they've lost data, and that's really bad for business.
Yeah, unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Well, we're going to get going in a few minutes, probably maybe 4 more minutes or so. I don't want it to go too long. I want to start doing more of these live type of just it's almost like a ask me anything type of thing, but also instead of just ask me anything, it's like a conversation about whatever you guys want to know about. So I want to bring more of you on. Like Trevor has a ton of knowledge that he can give, so I'm going to have him more on here in the future, talking about stuff, especially when it comes to creative stuff that he's working on. He is not only a product designer, but he also does websites, and he does an amazing job at that. So if there's anything having to do with websites, website design, business website design, all that kind of stuff, he's the guy that you need to go to for that. So I want to just kind of leave it with that, or, you know, so at least you know that if you need someone for that, Trevor is your guy. But like I said, I want to have you guys on. So it doesn't matter what you want to talk about, whatever you are, whatever your specialty is, I want to have you on and have this discussion, because certainly there's going to be a lot of other people that will be interested in what you're talking about. So to do that, just simply go over to community.jchristina.com. Once again, community.jchristina.com. Get onto our Discord server. Okay, once you're there and you have an account, you can send me a message directly and say, yeah, I'd love to be on the program, blah, 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 and this is what I would like to talk about. Let me know. Also, if you've already joined the channel, all right, and you are a member, let me know. You can go over to jchristina.com, right into the contact, and just type me a message. Let me know what you want to talk about. I would love to have you on. We can do what we're doing right now with Trevor, which would be Skype. We can do a conversation using Discord, however you want to do it. But once again, I want to have you guys on the show, because I think it'll be cool, and it'll be better than just hearing me all the time. I'm going to continuously, obviously, put out content, but it'd be kind of neat to kind of spin it around a little bit and just have something different, so it's not always the same old stuff, just to vary things up. So this is what I'm looking for. Once again, go over to community.jchristina.com, community.jchristina.com, sign up. Also, if you want to contribute to the channel, a lot of you guys have already. I really appreciate each and every one of you for doing it. But if you want to, you could just simply hit join. At the bottom of any video, it doesn't make a difference what it is, just hit join, and then you will be able to contribute $1, $2, $5, whatever you want per month to do so. I would really appreciate that. And if you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. And if for some reason you're not getting my emails anymore, holy crap, yeah, go over to jchristina.com. And you can either go and grab my ebook by going over to jchristina.com/ebook. Get that. It's free. It'll automatically sign you up, or you can also just sign up directly from jchristina.com. So either which way, the ebook is there. 10 tips of making tax-sharp images. Go check it out. There's something for amateurs, pro-ams, and professionals, like I always say. So go grab that at jchristina.com/ebook. So Trevor, some closing stuff, any kind of questions that we want to put in there? Let's go ahead and do that before we call it. By 4 o'clock would be kind of good.
Yeah, let's see, Daryl Spencer just left a question. He said, would you consider doing a live or a series vlog on copyrights?
That's interesting.
Copyrights is interesting, yeah, because it's all the legal stuff. And Joe, I know you don't have your legal degree, and neither do I.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree. I agree. So, you know, Daryl, I would have to, I would have to defer when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And the reason being is, like Trevor said, if I tell you what works good here in Florida, wherever you are, is going to be completely different. So
Right.
anytime you're dealing with legal stuff, it makes it really rough because it changes. It's ever changing anyway. So even if you are in Florida and I tell you something, in 2 years from now, someone's listening to this and they're like, oh yeah, let me do that. And it's a fail. All right. So I don't like to do that.
I mean, maybe we can find a lawyer, an attorney that specializes in copyright for photo and video, maybe have them come on and share some insight. Again, like you said, it's going to be different from state to state and country to country,
right.
But maybe the information could be general enough for things to consider.
Yeah, that's perfect. So if there is an attorney out there and you're watching, all right, no matter the state, definitely, hit me up and we'll have you on, especially if you do IP. That would be great. Intellectual property is always good. Any type of, attorney that would have some type of understanding of copyright, especially when it comes to photo, video, and audio too. Because there's a lot of people that watch that are doing audio, that are into audio that I wasn't even aware of. And they watch the channel because they're not only doing the audio, but they want some video aspect of it also because they're putting together some type of, video, a music video or whatnot. So,
right.
yeah, definitely. That would be great. And that's what I'm saying. If you have a specialty, you good at something, whatever that specific something is, let me know, and we definitely want to have you on the show. So once again, in closing, Trevor, tell people where they can find you.
Sure, you could check out my business website at currentmediagroup.net. That is where the day job happens. That is the site for that. I am working on a really interesting project that I think a lot of your community will like, but it's very early stages, so I don't want to reveal too much about that.
No problem. Yeah, we'll have to get you on once that all breaks. Let's say we'll get the breaking news. How if we do that, right? Instead of you telling anyone else, we'll have you here and you can tell us all about it. So anyways, guys, this was probably about half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm trying to keep them under an hour, not to go long and on and on and on, but I want to do more of these. So we'll get to our regular, today is Friday, we'll get to our regular videos as we normally do, probably this weekend, if not Monday, but hopefully before the holidays, we'll be able to do maybe another live video and just hang out and just shoot it like we did today. I have just a blast with this kind of stuff. It's just so much fun. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate the super chat donation. Thank you so much for that. It's really been really great. So as always, as I always tell you guys, many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy. Take care, guys. Thanks a lot for coming.
Bye.